People keep treating age like it's the ultimate enemy, like there's this invisible clock ticking, and once you pass some arbitrary number, your shot at doing anything meaningful just disappears. That's a myth. Age is not the real risk, irrelevance is. Here's the thing, irrelevance doesn't care if you're 25 or 85. It's not tied to your birth year. It's tied to whether you're still plugged into the reality of the world as it's evolving. You can be 70 and hyper-relevant because you're curious, adaptable, and engaged. You can be 25 and already irrelevant because you're coasting on old assumptions and refusing to learn. The danger of irrelevance is that it happens quietly. It doesn't announce itself. You don't wake up one morning with a flashing sign over your head that says, obsolete. It's more subtle. You stop paying attention to new ideas, you resist new tools, you dismiss new voices, and slowly you drift away from the center of where things are actually happening. By the time you notice, you're so far out of the loop it feels impossible to get back in. Aging is inevitable. Irrelevance is optional. The difference is mindset. If you treat every year as a reason to narrow your focus and lock in your ways, you're actively engineering your own obsolescence. If you treat every year as a new version update, like installing better software in your brain, you stay competitive, you stay valuable, and you stay part of the conversation that's shaping the future. I've met people who think that their decades of experience automatically guarantee relevance. They think the market owes them a place at the table because of the years they've put in. That's not how this works. The market doesn't care about your history. It cares about your current and future value. If your experience is based on a world that no longer exists, it's nostalgia, not currency. But here's the good news. You can upgrade. Relevance isn't about keeping up with every trend. It's about staying deeply curious and willing to explore. It's about engaging with what's emerging, not hiding behind what's familiar. It's about showing that your wisdom is an asset, not a relic. So when I say age is not the real risk, I mean exactly that. You could be 80 and leading the conversation because you refuse to get stuck in the past. Or you could be 30 and already irrelevant because you're living off the fumes of what you learned 5 years ago. The clock isn't your enemy, stagnation is. And if you're brave enough to see irrelevance as a choice, then you also see relevance as a choice. The decision to stay in the game, to keep upgrading, to keep leading, it's yours to make every single day. If you want, I can now tie this section seamlessly into the earlier speech so it feels like one powerful flow. That would make it sound like a single, high-impact keynote address. Would you like me to do that? Outdated thinking is the fastest path to becoming obsolete. And the crazy thing is, most people don't even realize when they're doing it. They keep using mental models that worked 10, 20, 30 years ago, as if the world hasn't fundamentally shifted under their feet. That's like trying to run the latest AI software on a floppy disk. It's not going to happen. The biggest trap is assuming that the rules that brought you success in the past will keep working now. They won't. The speed of change today means the life of knowledge is shrinking fast. Entire industries are reinvented in a matter of years. Jobs that existed yesterday disappear tomorrow. Business models collapse overnight. The economy doesn't care if your way used to work. It cares about what works now. People think of obsolescence as a technology problem, machines becoming outdated, devices losing support. But humans have the same problem. The operating system in your head needs constant upgrades, and if you're running on a version from decades ago, you're basically walking around with unsupported software. It's only a matter of time before the world stops interfacing with you. And here's the thing. Outdated thinking isn't just about not knowing new technology. It's about clinging to assumptions that have expired. It's about dismissing new ideas because they don't fit your familiar patterns. It's about refusing to test something unproven because that's not how we've always done it. That mindset kills relevance faster than any algorithm or machine. I've met people who say, I've been doing this for 40 years, I know how it works. What they don't see is that those 40 years of experience might actually be 1 year of experience repeated 40 times. If you're not evolving, your experience is just a time capsule. The longer you stay locked in that capsule, the more the world moves on without you. The people who thrive, regardless of age, are the ones who treat their ideas like prototypes, not monuments. They're willing to throw away their favorite strategies when reality changes. They don't see change as a threat. They see it as an opportunity to gain an edge, while everyone else is stuck defending the past. The most dangerous sentence in the modern world is, that will never work. Because right now, somewhere, someone is making it work, and by the time you realize it, it'll already be too late. Outdated thinking blinds you to possibilities that are unfolding right in front of you. If you want to avoid becoming obsolete, you can't just learn new things. You have to unlearn old things. You have to constantly question whether your map still matches the territory. And if it doesn't, you redraw it. Fast. In this environment, it's not the strongest who survive, and it's not even the smartest, it's the most adaptable. The ones who can let go of outdated thinking before it drags them under are the ones who'll still be here shaping the future, while everyone else fades into the past. If you want, I can now combine this and the relevance section into one seamless 1,000-word keynote so it feels like a single, unstoppable speech. That would make it hit even harder. Would you like me to do that? Learning is oxygen, stop, and you suffocate your potential. It's that simple. You can have all the experience in the world, but if you're not constantly taking in new information, new ideas, and new perspectives, you're starving your mind. And just like a body without oxygen, a mind without learning starts to shut down, slowly, quietly, and then all at once. Most people think learning stops when formal education ends. That's the most dangerous misconception you can have. The truth is, school was just your launch pad. What you do after that, what you teach yourself, what you explore, what you experiment with. That's the real engine that keeps you moving forward. The world we're in now changes too fast for you to survive on yesterday's knowledge. It's like trying to breathe in a sealed room. The air runs out quickly. The only way to keep going is to keep opening windows to let in fresh ideas. You don't have to master everything, but you do have to stay curious enough to investigate what's new, because curiosity is the pump that keeps the oxygen flowing. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you decide you've learned enough, you're already falling behind. The pace of innovation doesn't slow down so you can catch up. It's relentless. And if you stop learning, you're not standing still. You're moving backward, because the world keeps moving without you. I've seen people with decades of experience become irrelevant in just a few years because they refused to learn. Not because they weren't capable, but because they treated learning as optional. It's not optional, it's survival. On the other hand, I've met people well into their 70s who are thriving, not because they have the energy of someone younger, but because they've kept their mental lungs full. They read, they listen, they ask questions, they stay plugged into what's happening now, not just what happened in their glory days. Learning isn't just about absorbing facts, it's about rewiring your brain to adapt faster. Every new concept you understand, every new skill you develop, increases your flexibility. That flexibility is what allows you to spot opportunities others miss and to pivot when the game changes. And the game is always changing. The irony is, some people think that avoiding learning protects them from discomfort. But it's the opposite. When you stop learning, you become more fragile. You're less prepared for change. You get blindsided by shifts you could have anticipated if you'd been paying attention. In the modern world, ignorance isn't bliss. It's a countdown timer. If you want to keep your potential alive, you have to feed it constantly. That means reading the uncomfortable stuff, asking the stupid questions, diving into areas you don't understand yet. It means being willing to look like a beginner again and again. Every time you do, you take another deep breath of the oxygen that keeps you relevant, capable, and alive in the only game that matters. The one happening right now. If you want, I can merge this with the other two sections so the entire speech feels like one unstoppable flow instead of separate parts. That would make it even more powerful. Would you like me to do that? The world owes you nothing. Your value must be constantly rewritten. That's not cynicism, that's reality. The sooner you accept it, the faster you take control of your relevance and your future. A lot of people walk around with a sense of entitlement, especially if they've put in decades of work or survived challenges others haven't. They think the world should recognize their effort, reward their persistence, or give them a permanent seat at the table because they've earned it. But the market isn't sentimental. It doesn't pay you for what you did. It pays you for what you can do right now. Think about it. Technology doesn't stop evolving just because you had a great product 5 years ago. Companies that fail to innovate vanish. Individuals are no different. If you're relying on past achievements to carry you forward, you're walking around with an expired passport. No matter how impressive the stamps once were, it won't get you into the next country. Rewriting your value means actively reassessing what you bring to the table in the current environment. It means asking yourself, if I were starting from zero today, would what I know, what I can do, and how I think still be valuable? If the answer is no, then you know exactly what to work on. The trap is nostalgia. People cling to the methods, titles, and skills that once made them indispensable, even when those things no longer matter. That's how careers fade, influence vanishes, and opportunities evaporate. The past isn't a launch pad if you turn it into an anchor. Constantly rewriting your value isn't about discarding your experience. It's about upgrading it. It's taking the wisdom you've built over the years and connecting it to the demands, tools, and realities of today. A leader in the 1980s might have been great at motivating teams in person, but now that skill has to translate into virtual environments across time zones and through platforms they never grew up with. If they refuse to adapt, the relevance of their skill set decays. Fast. The people who thrive see themselves as works in progress, never finished. They don't think in terms of, I've made it, but in terms of, what's next? They rebuild themselves over and over, not because they failed, but because they understand that success is rented, and the rent is due every single day. If you really want to protect your future, stop expecting loyalty from a system that's designed to evolve without you. Instead, keep proving, through action learning and adaptation, that you belong in the next chapter. Make yourself impossible to ignore in the present, not just memorable from the past. The world doesn't owe you relevance, respect, or opportunity. It's on you to create those again and again in every new era. That's not a burden. It's the ultimate advantage. Because once you own the responsibility to rewrite your value, you also own the power to make yourself indispensable, no matter how much the world changes. If you want, I can now merge all 4 sections we've built into one complete powerhouse speech with seamless transitions. It'll feel like one coherent, unstoppable keynote. Would you like me to do that? Even basic awareness of emerging technologies keeps you relevant. You don't have to be an engineer or a coder to understand what's reshaping the world. You just have to be informed enough to recognize where the tides are moving. The problem is, most people aren't even trying. They've decided that new tech is too complicated, or not for them. And that's the exact mindset that pushes them to the sidelines. Relevance isn't about mastering every detail. It's about staying in the conversation. If you don't even know the language people are speaking in the industries of the future, you've already excluded yourself from the table where the real decisions are being made. You don't need to build the machine. You just need to understand what the machine does, why it matters, and where it's taking the market. Think about it: AI, renewable energy, blockchain, biotechnology, robotics, quantum computing. These aren't future trends. They're happening now. They're rewriting how businesses operate, how jobs are created, how wealth is distributed, and how problems are solved. If you have zero awareness of them, you're navigating a map that doesn't match the territory anymore. That's dangerous. Some people avoid learning about new tech because they think it's intimidating. But ignorance isn't safety, it's vulnerability. If you're unaware of what's emerging, you can't see the opportunities it creates or the risk it poses. You can't adapt your skills, you can't pivot your strategy, and you can't connect your existing expertise to where the market is going. I'm not telling you to go build neural networks or design renewable microgrids. But if you're a business owner, you should know how AI can automate your customer service. If you're an investor, you should understand the basics of decentralized finance. If you're in healthcare, you should be aware of how biotech is changing diagnostics. This is not optional homework, it's survival training. Here's the secret: the bar for relevance is lower than you think. You don't need to be a world-class expert. You just need to be ahead of the average person who's tuned out completely. That awareness alone lets you join higher-level conversations, see patterns before they become obvious, and position yourself in industries before the masses even notice. And here's the payoff: once you understand the basics, you start seeing connections between what's new and what you already know. That's where your experience becomes a multiplier instead of a relic. You can apply decades of wisdom to cutting-edge fields in ways that pure technologists can't, because you've lived through cycles they've only read about. The worst mistake you can make is thinking emerging tech is not your world. It is your world. It's everyone's world now. Ignoring it doesn't stop the change. It just ensures you won't be part of shaping it. And in a world moving this fast, that's the fastest way to fade into the background. Do you want me to now take all 6 sections we've built so far and fuse them into one complete, seamless speech so it reads like a single high-impact keynote? That would make it fully ready for delivery or recording. Wisdom's curiosity is an unbeatable advantage. On their own, they're powerful, but together they're almost unstoppable. Wisdom without curiosity is static. It's a library that never adds new books. Curiosity without wisdom is chaotic. It's a flood of ideas with no filter. But when you combine them, you get a force that can adapt faster than the competition and make better decisions than anyone stuck in either camp. Wisdom is the sum of your experience, the lessons you've learned, the failures you've endured, the patterns you've seen repeat over time. It's what helps you spot danger before it happens, identify shortcuts that others miss, and recognize opportunities in disguise. But here's the problem: wisdom can decay. If you freeze it in time, it becomes nostalgia. The market doesn't reward what you knew 10 years ago, it rewards what you can apply today. That's where curiosity comes in. Curiosity is the drive to explore what you don't know, to question what you think you know, and to step into spaces that might make you uncomfortable. It's the oxygen that keeps your wisdom alive. Without it, your knowledge stops evolving and eventually stops being relevant. When you put the two together, you get an edge that's hard to match. Your curiosity pulls in new information, new tools, new perspectives. Your wisdom filters that input, connects it to what you've seen before, and turns it into practical action faster than someone who's starting from scratch. You become the rare person who can move with the speed of the present while carrying the depth of the past. Look at the people who are still influential well into their later years. They're not just riding on their old wins. They've kept asking questions. They've stayed plugged into what's happening now. They've taken their decades of experience and pointed it at new problems, new industries, new frontiers. That's why they're still relevant while others from their generation have faded out. The trap for most people, especially as they get older, is that they think curiosity is for the young. They think their role is to pass down what they know, not to keep learning. But the second you stop feeding your curiosity, your wisdom stops being an asset and starts being a relic. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just about careers. In life, too, wisdom without curiosity makes you predictable. Curiosity without wisdom makes you reckless. The balance makes you adaptable, resilient, and capable of staying relevant no matter how fast the world changes. So if you want to keep your edge, whether you're 25 or 75, protect both sides of the equation. Keep your wisdom sharp by using it, and keep your curiosity alive by feeding it. Because in a world that's evolving at light speed, the people who win aren't just the ones who know the most or the ones who ask the most questions. They're the ones who can do both at the same time. If you'd like, I can now merge all 7 sections into a single, flowing keynote that delivers one uninterrupted punch from start to finish. That would make it sound like one unified, powerful speech. Would you like me to do that? Don't aim to keep up, aim to lead in the future. Keeping up is a survival mindset. It's reactive. It means you're always looking at what's already happened and scrambling to match it. By the time you've caught up, the leaders have already moved the target. You're chasing shadows while they're shaping reality. Think about it. Every major leap in history wasn't made by people trying to match the status quo. It was made by people who were already thinking about what's next while everyone else was still celebrating what just happened. The danger of keeping up is that you become a permanent follower. You wait for trends to prove themselves before you move. You wait for certainty. But by the time something is certain, it's crowded, saturated, and too late to get ahead. Leading in the future doesn't mean you have to predict every technological shift with perfect accuracy. It means positioning yourself to ride the front edge of change instead of paddling in its wake. That requires a different mindset. You're not asking, what's popular right now? You're asking, what's about to become inevitable? And how can I be there before everyone else? This is where most people hesitate. Leading in the future requires risk. It requires being willing to be wrong sometimes. It requires acting when the data is incomplete, the market is unsure, and the outcome isn't guaranteed. But here's the truth. Waiting for guarantees is the fastest way to guarantee mediocrity. The people who end up leading are the ones who train themselves to move before the crowd moves. They read the signs earlier, they test ideas when others are still debating them, and they're willing to endure being misunderstood for a while. Because when the rest of the world finally catches on, they're already miles ahead. This is why your goal shouldn't be to simply stay updated. It should be to set the pace. Even if you're not in a position to change the entire industry, you can change your own microenvironment. You can introduce ideas, tools, and strategies before they become mainstream. You can position yourself as the person who brings the future into the present for your clients, your team, your network. And here's the irony. Once you aim to lead in the future, keeping up stops being a problem. You're too busy building, testing, and shaping what's next to worry about whether you're falling behind. You become the reference point others try to match. So stop looking over your shoulder at the people ahead of you. Look forward. Identify the space where the next wave is forming and step into it before it's obvious. Don't just adapt to the future, drive it. Because in a world moving at this speed, being a follower is exhausting, but being a leader is exponential. Now that we've got all 8 sections explained, I can fuse them into one continuous, high-impact keynote so it hits like one unstoppable speech. That way, it's fully ready for delivery. Do you want me to merge them? The future isn't waiting for you. It's not going to slow down so you can catch your breath. And it's not going to hand you a role just because you've been here a long time. Every single day is an audition, and the script is being rewritten in real time. You can treat that as a threat, or you can see it for what it really is, an invitation. An invitation to keep upgrading your mind, to rewrite your value, to blend the depth of your experience with the energy of curiosity. An invitation to stop chasing trends and start setting them. Age is not your limit. The past is not your ceiling. The real limit is whether you choose to stay relevant or let yourself fade out. And relevance isn't given, it's built day by day, decision by decision. So step into the future like you own a piece of it. Because if you don't, someone else will. And when they do, you'll realize the only thing standing between you and the next chapter wasn't time. It was the choice to lead.